My eyebrows are in no universe ever going to be related, not even distant cousins. Today I thought it would be really fun to show you how I dye my eyebrows, which is super easy, accessible, quick, and of course vegan and cruelty free. It lasts for a little over a week, and I do this not once a week. I probably do this once a month just because I kind of like the look of a little bit of a lighter brow, but sometimes when I'm just feeling really bald like I am right now, I like to dye my eyebrows. My eyebrows are two different people. Like, no way are they sisters in any, like, no, in any kind of universe they could never be sisters. So anyway, if you would like to see how I take my eyebrows from this to this, then go ahead and please keep on watching. This is the dye that I use for my brows, and I also sometimes use for my hair, but the reason why it is so great for the brows is because the hair dye is resealable. There's no squeezy bottle. You can use it for months until it runs out. So you have a lot of uses when it comes to dyeing your eyebrows. Or if you're like me, you can dye your eyebrows a few times, and with the same box, then with the rest of the product, you can dye your roots, which is what I do. The great thing is that this hair dye is meant for sensitive skin. Clearly, you're putting it on your scalp when you're dyeing your hair. I mean, not necessarily. Sometimes you might do ombre or something like that. Especially when it comes to the eyebrows, you have no choice but to put it on the skin. It's going to come in contact with your skin. That's why this hair dye is so great, because it's meant for sensitive skin, but of course always do a test to make sure that you don't have any bad reactions to it. Ooh, it's also gluten-free too, so that's another thing. I don't really completely understand the concept of gluten-free external products. I know it's a thing. I am gluten-free myself, but it's not like I have celiac disease or anything like that where I have to seriously worry about gluten. If you do seriously have to worry about gluten, this is a great product for you. I'm gonna open the box. In this box, you get everything in here except for, I guess, the squeezy tube, but you get conditioner, your Royal Cream conditioner, and you also get a whole entire booklet of instructions, and you also get gloves, but I'm just going to save that for when I use the rest of the box to dye my roots, because I don't need that right now. And I definitely don't need the Royal Cream right now, but you could use this if you want to, I guess, outline the outside of your brows where you don't want the dye to stick. This will really help with that. Or you could also use just any kind of hair conditioner that you have, or I'm gonna use lip balm because I just like the applicator of it, and it's fun to put on my face. Don't need that. And lastly in the box, you have the hair color gel and the developer, and as you can see, these bottles are resealable. This was only $11, which may, I guess, seem expensive for hair dye, but if you take in consideration if you were going to go to a professional to get your eyebrows dyed, it would be at least $15, and that's only just one dyeing process, and then you're gonna have to go again within a week or so. I'm gonna take my Unearthed Lemongrass Mint Lip Balm, which I love so much because the packaging is completely biodegradable, meaning that you can throw it in the landfill without it needing any kind of oxygen to properly break down. So that is amazing, because unfortunately, plastic lip balms, if you were to recycle that, it most likely will not actually make it to the recycle. A lot of things that we recycle, about 90% of it gets thrown into the landfill due to contamination for the majority of it, because a lot of people do not know how to recycle, unfortunately. So that's why it's really great to get things that are biodegradable or even compostable, but compostable can't be thrown in the landfill. That's a whole different thing. But anyway, I just love this lip balm so much, and I had to mention it and tell you a little about it because it's I'm just going to go around the outline of my brows anywhere where I don't want the dye to stick. So like my skin, or even if I have any kind of brow hairs that I want to keep there, but I don't necessarily want to dye, that is good to coat in either lip balm or conditioner or even jojoba oil. I'm just gonna take this little glass bowl. I don't know if you can use metal when it comes to this hair dye, whereas you can't use metal when it comes to typical hair dye to mix it, but I'm just gonna be safe and use glass, and I'm taking just a little bit of the developer and pouring it in there. That was a little too much. Now I'm putting the same amount of hair color gel in with the developer because it's a 1-to-1 ratio. I'm gonna take this vegan angled liner brush because we don't allow single-use plastic utensils into our life to mix it. And the reason why I can get away with using a makeup brush that's really nice to mix the dye is because, I mean, there's not that much dye to where it's going to come up and come, I guess there's a little metal on here. Taking that same angled liner brush in some of the hair dye, I am just going to fill in my brows as if I usually do when I am doing it with makeup instead of dye. I'm going to avoid the brow hairs that I don't necessarily want to pluck, but I just don't necessarily like, so that my eyebrows are as even as I possibly can get them. Because for example, I have a little bit of hair right here, whereas I don't have as much hair right here on, I guess, the arch of my brow. So I'm just going to start filling it in, basically in the main areas that I'm very confident in filling in. And I found what helps the best is to kind of just wipe off the edges of the brush so that you only just have a little bit of the dye on the actual part, just so that you get as precise of an application as possible. That way you're less likely to get dye all over the place, even though we did outline our brows with either conditioner or lip balm or an oil, just to prevent that as much as possible. But I really like to keep it as clean and neat as I possibly can. And as you can probably tell, I'm not wearing any sort of face makeup, so no powder, foundation, nothing, because I just want to focus on this and not waste any of my products, I guess, because I'm gonna have to wipe all of this away, not just on the brow, but a little bit around, since I put the lip balm around my brows. The best thing to do is to do this before, if you're gonna like go to an event or anything like that, do this like 2 days before, just in case if you get a little bit of dye around your brows, or even it sometimes does dye underneath the brows, so our brows may look a little crazy the first couple of days after doing this, just because our skin underneath the hair is also dyed, so it's very heavy. So that's why it's best to do this a few days before going to an event. I mean, if you're doing this for the first time, definitely make sure you have nothing going on for that week, just in case. Maybe something might react weird, or you may just not like the way you look with your eyebrows dyed a certain shade or anything of that sort. If you've done this before, then you probably know that you should wait at least 2 days to just make sure that you don't have any hair dye underneath your brow hairs on your skin, making your eyebrows look very prominent. Taking a little more of the dye. I just cannot believe how much I mixed. This is way too much. I only need like about not even 1/10 of the amount that I made. When it comes to the starting point of my brow, I just like to not necessarily push down with the angled liner brush with the dye on it. I just like to kind of lightly brush the hairs that are sticking up. So basically not just go down all the way to the root of the hair, just get the tips of them so it's not so heavy. Enough on this brow. Now I'm going to work on this brow, but if I need to come back to this one at any point, I definitely can do that. Nothing is gonna react weirdly. Anything is gonna, this looks like a Kim Possible brow right here. Like that's, whoa. I actually really liked the live action Kim Possible. I mean, even if it had the casting of a lot of people's dreams, I feel like it still would not be as perfect as some people would want it to be, just because transforming a cartoon into real life is very interesting. Just because a cartoon, if a cartoon's doing something silly, it doesn't seem silly because it's a cartoon. But whereas if a human's doing it, it's going to look so silly and ridiculous and just unnatural. It's just gonna seem very silly if it's in real life, whereas if we're watching in a cartoon, we don't think anything of it because it's a whole nother world and we're like, okay. Like, I don't know, that's just how I feel about it. I actually, if at any time something like this happens to you, if you try this out, then definitely take a Q-tip and just, the way that I say Q-tip makes me very uncomfortable. Just take a Q-tip and wipe a way where you don't want dye. Obviously, we already prepped the outline of our brows with whatever you prepped them with, but I just want to make sure that my brows are as clean as possible because tomorrow I have to do things, and I don't want crazy wild brows. Not today. Well, not tomorrow. Oh my god, it's a cartoon! Wow, I look so intense right now. It really helps to look in a magnifying mirror, or at least just really close to the mirror, so that you know that you're getting all the brow hairs that you want to be getting. I feel like such a cartoon character right now with my little compact that I pulled out of like nowhere, where my clothes have no pockets. So you know what cartoon characters like pull things out of like thin air? Like they don't have any pockets. They didn't have that before. Where did that come from? That's me right now. Okay. I'm gonna take that same Q-tip and just get the clean side of it because I want to use it as much as I can and not be so wasteful. While I was doing this, I did not smell anything. You know how you do that with hair dye, especially with the blonde stuff. I used to dye my hair blonde, at least the ends of it, using herb tint, and it wasn't strong at all, which is so nice because with blonde hair dye, that bleach, that peroxide is so strong. Even though I think there is some kind of bleach peroxide in the herb tint blonde hair dyes, but it's not strong. You can be in the bathroom with the door closed, which still isn't recommended, and dye your hair without any irritation, at least in my experience. So I am just such a huge fan. I really like having brows, even though these are really intense. But anyway, I am such a huge fan of this brand of hair dye. So definitely check them out in the description box below. They have no idea that I'm making this video. I just have been using them for years and I really like them. I'm glad that they're all vegan, cruelty-free, obviously plant-based if they're vegan. And they have all these other amazing things about them. So now I'm just going to let my brows sit for about 15 to 20 minutes. I mean, you could just let them sit for 10 minutes and I'm pretty sure the dye will set in, but just to ensure the amount of time that I spent on my brows is worth it, I'm just going to let them sit for 50 minutes or so, and then we will take off the dye and reveal our brand new eyebrows for about a week and a half, and then they'll go back to our old eyebrows. What I'm gonna do is just take a clean Q-tip and dip it in my lip balm and just go over the bits that kind of got messed up so that it does not stain my skin. So that seems to have worked with the Q-tip and the lip balm, but now I just need to fill in that one little sparse area that I just accidentally erased. It's been about 15 minutes with these crazy brows all over my face, on my face, even though, let's face it, these kind of brows look so good on so many people, but clearly I cannot pull it off. It's just too much. The big brows just do not work for me, so it's time to wipe them away and reveal my brows that I'll have for about a week and a half. Now, taking a rag washcloth that you do not care about because dye may stain it permanently, I'm just going to swipe away the product, at least start to, because this is a process. I mean, it's not looking as heavy anymore. Yay! Look at that. We're a fan. This is a dye, and this is how it turns out, especially if you're very, very careful and precise. Sometimes when I do it, it is very, very messy because I'm in a hurry or I'm just really, really lazy and it doesn't come out as neat. And when you're doing this, you don't have to use that much pressure in order to take the dye off. Especially if you use too much pressure, you may be plucking some of your brow hairs, which is not what we want. So much better. If you end up not liking your brows after you dye them, all you have to do is put some oil in there, rub it, and it will really, really tone down the color, and just do that every single morning and night, and that will only take about 1 to 2 days to tone it down back to your original brow color. I found that that really helped, especially when I liked the brow color, but it really dyed my skin and a little bit around my brows. I took a little bit of oil and just rubbed it in the areas, especially right here. It was very concentrated, super dark. That really helped me. So if that happens to you, try that out. Also, if you're interested in seeing how I fill in my brows when it comes to makeup and products that I use to get my brows to be more filled in and less sparse than they are right now, then I linked a video in the description box below showing you my whole entire brow routine. That is how I dye my eyebrows at home. I hope you found this video helpful. I hope you found it entertaining. I am just so excited about the outcome of my brows this time that I just did it. They're a little lopsided, of course, because like I said, they're nowhere near related. They're not even sisters. Like I said earlier, you can find Herbitint at your local health food store. I've seen it at all health food stores in so many different locations of the country when I needed to grab a box. But also, I found it to be the most affordable on Amazon, which I'll list and link in the description box below. You're gonna get a lot of uses out of this single box of hair dye, saving so much money. Even if you were to go to a salon and just get your brows done for $15, which I guess is a good deal, but considering the fact that I can do it at home for, I would say, under $1 each use, then it definitely is the best deal, especially because I know what product I'm using and supporting with my dollar. It's kind of fun. It's fun to look like a cartoon character for a few minutes and shape your brows and just do a little bit of brow maintenance at home. Because I have gone to a salon before and spent $45, this was one time, but I spent $45 to get my brows dyed professionally. And while it was fun, I thought I was gonna walk out with Audrey Hepburn brows, but I just walked out with my brows, my same brows, just a little darker. And then a week later, it kind of faded away. So either way, it really is just the best, at least in my opinion, to do it at home, especially with a product that you know and trust. And also with my many boxes of this hair dye, I have never experienced it going bad. Even when I've opened it at the beginning of one month and then I used it just a couple of times that month, and then into the next month, I still used it a couple of times, and then even the third month I used it like once or twice and it was totally fine. And then the rest of the box I just used to touch up my roots. I just had so much fun filming this video and sharing my eyebrow dyeing process with you. I hope you learned something from this. I hope you learned about Herbitint hair dye, because I think that even if you're not vegan, even if you don't eat vegan food, even if you buy leather goods, whatever it may be, the least that you can do is get a vegan cruelty-free hair dye, because it's just as good, at least in my opinion, as the other hair dye that a lot of us are used to, or at least used to seeing in mainstream stores. Oh my goodness, this is like the brow that Candy Johnson did on Kim Kardashian when she turned her into Jasmine and everyone was complaining, even though she was turning her into a cartoon character.